Leaders of the G7 countries have gathered at the French luxury resort town of Evian-Les-Bains for the high-stakes 52nd G7 summit. Now, this year's summit kicks off just hours after a historic preliminary deal between the US and Iran. US President Trump arrived at the summit venue where he met French President Emmanuel Macron. Speaking to reporters, Trump said that the deal with Iran is all signed and the Strait of Hormuz is already partially opened, adding that it will be opened completely once the deal is formally signed on Friday.
I'm very happy to say it's signed, the deal's all signed, and the strait is already partially opened. As you know, they're doing a little hunting for a couple of mines that they've already found, but it's essentially ships are starting to go out now. On Friday, it'll be completely opened.
Later, Trump was seen alongside the other G7 leaders holding discussions and even posing for photographs. And earlier, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. They arrived at Evian-Les-Bains for the high-stakes summit. Brazilian President Lula da Silva and the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, they also arrived at the summit. Prime Minister Modi also scheduled to reach Evian-Les-Bains. Besides attending a working session with the French president, Modi is expected to meet US President Donald Trump, marking the first in-person meeting in over a year. Modi is also slated to hold bilaterals with Canadian Prime Minister Carney and the UK Prime Minister Starmer and UAE President Al Nahyan. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky has arrived in Geneva before heading to the G7 summit. Zelensky is expected to meet US President Donald Trump and even discuss bringing the Ukraine war to an end. In a light-hearted moment in Geneva, Zelensky said that he was planning to travel from Geneva to the G7 summit by car as US President Donald Trump took all the helicopters.
After no, I think that we will do by car. Okay. So can you stay in President Trump, I think, took all the helicopters.
Earlier in the week, Zelensky had urged a decisive and substantive response from the G7 leaders after the latest wave of Russian strikes that killed at least 11 people. He revealed he had proposed a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the G7, but that Moscow was not ready for it. All right, for more details, our Assistant Editor Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibal, has sent us this report.
It's a big day here in Evian, where the G7 leaders will be taking part in several key meetings, including a session on Ukraine, a session on West Asia. Remember, West Asian leaders have also been invited. There is, of course, a positivity in the backdrop of the announcement on US and Iran understanding. Of course, the signing happens in Geneva later this week. But all in all, the big focus will be on the worry of the global south as well. The Indian Prime Minister is going to raise that given the conflict's impact on the global south. India, of course, has been impacted disproportionately because of the conflict and rising prices of crude and the oil prices that, of course, goes into larger inflation. But the Indian Prime Minister also has several bilateral meetings, including with the British, the Canadian, and with the UAE leadership that will take place later today here in Evian on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Siddhant Sibal for WION in France.